Jeg skal begynne. Okay. Yeah. I'm very pleased to welcome you all to our side event, the Nordic Food Frontline. We ask, how do we keep food on the table when climate change, war and trade barriers put us under pressure? We will share experiences from the Nordic countries and discuss how resource circulation can contribute to more, smarter and greener food in the north. My name is Frøydis Gillund, and I'm a researcher at the Norwegian Institute of Bioeconomy Research, NIBIO, and I will do my best to lead you through this session. And it's my honor to introduce the first speaker, Ivar Christensen, Director General of NIBIO, who will start by sharing his reflections on why food security must be addressed together across the Nordic countries. Please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues and friends. We are living in a period where food security, climate, and geopolitics are no longer separate conversations. They are deeply interconnected. Food security has once again become a strategic issue, not only for the Global South, but for Europe, the Nordic region, and the Arctic alike. Farmers across the globe have two common realities. They are proud producers of food, and they are among the first to experience the climate change. These changes are unfolding at an increasingly rapid pace. Globally, the numbers are clear. The world population continues to grow, while agricultural land is shrinking. The productivity is decreasing, and at the same time, climate change, biodiversity loss, extreme weather events, and geopolitical tensions are accelerating. According to the recent Global Risk Assessment, environmental and geopolitical risk are now dominating both short and long-term outlooks. Food systems sit right at the intersections of these risks. This is from the meeting in Davos last week. Against this backdrop, food production is no longer just about yield and efficiency. It is about resilience, it's about sovereignty, and it's about ability of societies to function under pressure. This is where the Nordic region, and particularly the Arctic, enters the global picture. The Arctic is often described as remote and peripheral. In reality, it's a frontline for climate change, where impacts are happening faster and more visibly than anywhere else on the planet. But it's also a frontline for knowledge, innovation, and cooperation. The Nordic countries has shared unique characteristics: harsh, climate-limited agricultural land, long distances, and small open economies. Yet we also share something equally important: strong institutions, high trust, equally important knowledge systems, and long traditions of cooperation between research, industry, and government. These combinations matters. In a world where global supply chains are increasingly fragile, regional food systems become strategic assets. In a world where climate risks are rising, production systems adapt to extreme conditions, become sources of global learning, and in a world marked by geopolitical uncertainty, trust, partnership, and shared values become decisive advantages. The Arctic and Nordic food system will never compete on volume, but they can and must compete on resilience, sustainability, and knowledge-based production. They can serve as testbeds for climate-robust agriculture, sustainable land use, and low-impact food production systems that the world will increasingly need. This side event is therefore not only about food production in the north. It is about how the Nordic and the Arctic experiences can contribute to global food resilience. It is about how production and partnerships must go hand in hand. And it is about how science, policy, and practice must work together if we are to navigate an increasingly uncertain world. Today's discussion is an invitation to look beyond borders, beyond sectors, and beyond short-term solutions. It is an opportunity to ask how we strengthen food systems that can withstand shocks, adapt to change, and continue to deliver not just for today, but for decades ahead. With that, I'm very pleased to open this session and look forward to an engaging and forward-looking discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have invited three distinguished speakers from Finland, Sweden, and Norway, who will share their perspectives on opportunities and challenges facing food security across the Nordic countries. And I'm very happy to introduce Anu Kaukovirta, who is Vice President of the Natural Research Institute in Finland, and will provide a broad overview of the Nordic agriculture in times of rapid change. Please.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon. It's really great to be today here. So, if we think about the food production, it's really there in the middle of the changes what we are discussing here today. So, if we think about the economy, the market fluctuation, if we think about the society, very polarized discussions, black and white thinking, and then even more if we think about the environment, so climate change and biodiversity loss. So these all have very crucial influence on also the food production. So as we already heard, so I think we really share the joint target, so strong Nordic food production. It's supporting us in many ways in welfare, in security, and also resilience. I think the starting point is very good. So these are the statistical maps what we have here. So the left one, so it's showing the environmental index in Europe. So the darker the color, the cleaner the environment. Then there up is showing water resources, so more blue and darker blue, so more water. And the third one is showing how much we are using antibiotics in food livestock production. So the greener it is, so there is less antibiotics. So this is really a good starting point. But of course we are facing the same challenges, like I said, climate change and biodiversity loss. They are changing the ecosystem where we are producing food. Climate change has diverse effects on our environment, agricultural environment. There are some positive changes also. So extension of the growing season. Then we can think we can have introduce new plants, and we can even get more water what we have at the moment. But then there are a lot of negative effects. So there is a spread of different diseases, plant and animal diseases coming from the south of Europe, and then there is this severe drought periods, especially on springtime, which is very important when we are starting the agricultural period, and also when we have less snow cover, it's changing the whole ecosystem where we are growing. But what is not changing is the light conditions, and I think that's very important because we have all quite often been thinking that, okay, we can use all the varieties and plants which are coming from Central Europe. No, we cannot use because they are not used to our light conditions. I really like maps, and I have more maps here. So I think the latitude 60 degrees is, I think it's quite an interesting line because in Finland we have all the agricultural production north of that. And in fact, in Sweden and in Norway also, so quite a lot of agricultural production is south of that. And of course, if we take Denmark, it's even far more south. So that's an interesting, and we need to take care of that area which is above of the 60 degrees. And then if we think about how much agricultural land we have, So in fact, very little in Sweden, Norway, Finland and Iceland. Denmark is totally different. And more maps. So this is already a old study, and we have a very long data here. And it's showing how we can grow more far north different crops. So these are wheat, oats and barley, which are the common crops in Finland. And we know that already this 2025, that was exactly what was estimated here years ago. And you see that already after 30 years, we are expecting to have very up north the common crops. But the situation, we are not there yet. And I don't know if you see the lowest map. So we have put a lot of effort on in Finland to grow more protein plants. But it's really possible at the moment only in the very southern west part of Finland, where it's the mildest climate. And other parts, there are very, very low crop yields. So it's not competitive to grow them in other parts of Finland. Even the oats, which is our most important, so it's in the south and middle part. And then if we think about the grass, so grass is growing all over the Finland, all over the upper part of Sweden and Norway too. And if we think grass it's in a way that kind of ecosystem plant, because it's really helping the sustainable ecosystem. It's tiding more water, more carbon on soil, and it's helping there in many ways. So that's why the combination of cattle and grass has been so important to our ecosystems, and we will hear more about the next talk. But what we have also been working is the grass biorefinery. So because we can even get 3 crops of grass per one growing season. So that's huge, and a huge amount of grass, and so that we could also use it for other purposes, other types of products. This is not a new idea. It has been already studied, for example, in Denmark and Holland, Netherlands. But I think definitely this is the place where we should take this further. So what kind of raw material the grass really can be. Then the other challenge is really the dependency of non-European sources of different inputs, nutrients and inputs what we need in agriculture. So this is the situation in Finland, the self-sufficiency of different inputs. And it was really something what we realized when the Ukraine war started. So all the nitrogen came from Russia. And we are struggling with that. So if we think about the fertilizers, it's the self-sufficiency is less than 20%. If we think about seeds and seedlings, some of them, they are all coming outside Nordics at least, but outside Europe even. And it's even also part of the energy, and also labor, what we need, the employees what we need there, for example in horticulture. So this is definitely something where we need to more work together. And I really think that the circular bioeconomy, we have been working with circular economy quite long, but this is the place where we really should take all the tools what we can and look these different sectors together. Then it's resource efficient. We are not losing nutrients. We are not losing working resources. We are not losing those. We can, when we are better combining, we should have better logistics, better use of data. So that's something what we should really do there in this northern part of Nordics. One thing that, of course, food production is also competing with green energy. And that's something, it's very important for our production, but we are competing with it. So we believe that Europe is looking north when we are thinking food production, and that's something where we need to collaborate more.
We will now turn to the role of animals, both in war and peace. And grass-fed livestock is the backbone of agriculture in the north. I'm very pleased to introduce Sigrid Agenas, Professor of Ruminant Management at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. And I look forward to hearing your reflections on how ruminants use sustainable use of local resources. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm thoroughly enjoying Tromsø as such and the scientific program. And now keen to, yes, okay. So I'm giving this talk from the standpoint of being the director of a sustainable or a collaborative research center called Sustainable, which is looking into how animals should be included in future Swedish food systems. And Sustainable has 20 partners throughout the primary production sector in Sweden. So it's universities, governmental bodies, NGOs, farmer-owned companies, and we try and work on this together. And the funding is from the Swedish Research Council Formas and the industry partners. And the starting point for Sustainable is to look at, I'm not sure what I'm talking about. I need to see what I'm doing. Okay. Yes, the role of animals in the food system for both loads and deliveries, and to look at agricultural land as a basic resource. So we're trying to look at how we can produce the most sustainably and the most competitively, rather than to focus on the consumption end of the food system. And something that we felt was a little bit new when we started in 2020 was to look at deliveries and loads from animals in the food system at the same time. So the first, most important one we're looking into is net food output. And with that we mean if I have a specific area of land and I use it in different ways, which will give the best net food output in terms of nutritious food for the people who are the end consumers. We also look into competitiveness in the sense that it should be possible to run a business in all parts of the food system and to make a profit and to have a vacation and to make investments to make your company viable over time. And then we have all the well-known factors like biodiversity, the role of animals for landscape attractiveness and people's interest in being in and living in the countryside, carbon sinks, circulation of plant nutrients, their combined importance for soil fertility, greenhouse gas emissions, of course, animal ethics and social sustainability. And also we had from the beginning resilience and preparedness as part of our work task. And because of that, in 2022, we were invited to host a workshop at a meeting called the Uppsala Health Summit, which is a summit with actors from the WHO and the UN and likewise, who come together and discuss health issues. And in 2022, their focus was on food systems, healthy lives from healthy food systems. And we had the chance to give a workshop on sustainable animal food production in war and peace. And it was really interesting to gather a room of people who work with policy at the top level and to mix them with farmers and discuss why do you have animals on your farm and how would that be affected in a crisis situation. And I'm going to come back to some of the conclusions from this workshop. Unless I break the room first. Okay. So we've talked a lot about what we need to be prepared for. Are we talking about the ability to handle a sudden rain? This is from this fall, really heavy rain cut off the north of Sweden. Both railroad and car roads were cut off. Or is it more to do with what Anna just showed, the long-term perspectives of multiple changing factors? We work a lot with inspiration from this classic Moivissen et al. Publication from 2019, separating robustness, which is the ability for a system to keep producing or delivering the same thing even if something unexpected happens, from that of adaptability, to be able to change a little bit how you do things and keep delivering something that is similar to what you usually do. And that by transformability, the ability to change how you do things and maybe grow and innovate due to new conditions. And for the food system, this can be exemplified with robustness. You can reach that with stockpiling. So if you have a lot of food stored and crops fail, you can sell from the storage. But that's a short-term and one single-use solution. While adaptability can be represented by having multifunctional crops, for example, that you can harvest early for animal feed or late as a grain for bread. And you can also have a system that is so robust that even if things change, the primary production can keep working because you can find other ways of doing things. And we believe that the ability for transformation is decreased when we rely heavily on global trade. Because if that trade is cut off, just like was just mentioned, it's very difficult to solve that in a local setting. And we also like to underline that if it's not in the system in good times, it won't magically appear in a crisis. So the challenge here is to narrow down how much preparedness do we need to have? What is the core function of our food system? And how much can we play on an international market? And who decides where that threshold is? And I went to another seminar this morning saying that how can science contribute? But science can show likely outcomes of different targets, but it's not science decision. It's a community, it's a societal decision on how much risk are we willing to take. Sweden has around 7% of the land use is used for agriculture. It's unevenly distributed, and it's also the distribution of productiveness is also uneven. So if you look at this map, the yellow is high productive land where you can get all sorts of crops. So a normal cropping year, you see the distribution of different crops. Pale yellow on the Swedish map is hardly anywhere. Those are the areas where farmland hasn't been abandoned, while the darker red you go, the more of that land has been abandoned for forestry over the last 100 years. And if we go all the way to the dark red, 67% of the crops in a crop rotation year is a lay crop, which is the grass that we harvest as animal feed. And that's because that's the only crop that those farms can rely on to have a harvest. They can seed other things, but the risk is a lot higher. So who takes that risk with them if they're going to provide other things? The biodiversity, of course, we look into this part of the land that has to be grazed in order to maintain the biodiversity needed also for cropping. If someone can start this film footage, would be great. Yeah. So this is semi-natural grasslands in the middle of Sweden. This is not land that we could do anything else with in order to get food. The only way to have this land in the food system is to have it through grazing animals. And I have more examples of that. We have some publications for those of you who are interested in seeing how we evaluate the role of animals. And I just want to show the last slide, that if we want to use the land up north, the animals won't be outside all the time. So we also need to work in how to house them during the winter. And this is a slide of the SLU Animal Research Facility in Umeå, which I think is the furthest north for agriculture, land-based production animals, which is sad because now standing in Tromsø, Umeå is very far south, isn't it? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Sigrid. And this is a nice bridge towards Hildegunn Norheim. As we understand, agriculture relies on land, and land is a scarce resource. Hildegunn Norheim, who is director of NIBIO's Division of Survey and Statistics, will discuss how these land resources are increasingly under pressure. So please.
Thank you. Oh, I tried to find the microphone and everything. I would like to speak about the key issue for a large region, deserve special attention, given climate changes, the geopolitical situation, and also area conflicts. Agriculture has an important core mission to ensure safe food based on Norwegian resources. And the land of reindeer husbandry are under extreme pressure in this part. The government policy aims to support a more Norwegian food production and a higher degree of self-sufficiency and agriculture through the whole country. When the green transmission accelerate pressure on land resources will increase even more in further. So knowledge about the land, knowledge about the resources is fundamental. And we need knowledge and facts for discussion so we take the right decisions further. A short description of the land resources statistics in Norway. As you can see, the rangeland is 95% of the land, and only 3.5% is agricultural land, so it's quite small. And if you look further in the north region, the 3 counties, it's even more rangeland, 98.2% rangeland, and 1.3 agricultural land. And the north of Norway is 1/3 of the area, but only 11% of the country is agricultural land. The country's agricultural land. The Sami reindeer husbandry are under pressure. 40 to 45% of the land is reindeer land. And in the north, everything is designated to Sami reindeer husbandry territory. And 70% of all reindeers are in Finnmark. So it's a quite different situation than in the south. So this, yes, as you can see, the different parts is not more left for other things. So the pressure of the areas are very big. This is our geospatial platform with maps that everyone can go in and have a look to see the reindeer husbandry land use data set. And it's important in planning to have a look because it's not much free land for other things. So let's go further to the area for food production. Have a look in Norway. The rangeland food production in Norway is very high. The grazing animals helps us to use natural resources wisely for food, for clothing, for keeping our cultural landscape and diversity alive. And livestock production is the most important land-based sector for food production in the northern north. And the agricultural land is limited. But most of it is used, as you have told also, for food for animals. Therefore, grazing during the summer is very essential for food production. And the thing is that the most northern Norway has excellent condition for livestock grazing in rangeland. Our mapping in NIBIO shows that the northern part have very excellent quality. and it's very good use for animals. So the agricultural land is quite low. It's 1.3%, and but it has a large potential for growing more crops than just grass. And I think it's very important to have an overview about this land, because it's need to protect the best agricultural land for the coming years, for more food production. And to know what kind of quality this soil has, soil mapping provides the knowledge base for good decisions across these issues. So when we do the soil mapping, we have the climate data set and all the climate requirements for different crops. We make different maps for what kind of what can grow there. As an example, I have one with white cabbage in Målselv in Tromsø. Current situation is potatoes, but it might be different crops delivered from these areas. If we do the soil mapping, we can see what kind of possibilities is in this area. Also, we have done that to see the potential of grain cultivation, early maturing barley in Nordland. The current situation is that it's some parts, but it's possible to grow even more. But we can't do anything without farmers. We must have farmers. And the last 20 years, there has been a decline of the number of active farmers in this area. Around 50% have been shut down, and that's important thing to when we are talking about how to produce food. And it's a political explicit goal to maintain active agriculture through the whole country. So we need farmers for food production, and that's something we should not forget. There are competing interests within the same areas in Norway. And in these three northern counties, land use conflicts related to reindeer husbandry are increasing. Access to knowledge and maps is important to ensure the early stage of planning and process in the municipalities, in the counties. And the climate change affects and intensifies the land use conflicts. So it's quite heavy. And also wind power and mining are pressure for the land use. So there is gold conflicts in the land use management around the municipalities. Also the electricity, the high voltage transmission lines, they are also using land. And let's make some problems someplace. This is back one. This is an example where the application for windmills are, the license for windmill. And if you look in the north, the brown dots in Finnmark is quite a lot. That might be quite a lot of conflicts. So new ambitions for more clean energy through the wind power and the mineral are creating land use conflicts, especially for the Sami reindeer husbandry. So this is the need of knowledge, and to come in an early phase is very important. So 1 minute left, and I'm in the last one. Oh, good. I will stop and just say knowledge is needed. And I think knowledge between the Nordic countries, how to collaborate more east-west in more ways than we have today. There's a large potential for increasing food. The number of farms are halved the last 20 years. And supply lines and increased cooperation is very important with our neighbor lands, I think. So that's everything. Thank you.
thank you to all three of you for very insightful contributions. I think you have illustrated very well both the rich natural resources that we draw upon for food production in this region, but also the vulnerabilities in our food systems. And now I would like to invite all the three of you on the stage, and we will have a small conversation about how Nordic research collaboration can help address these vulnerabilities. Yeah, so I think I will start with you, Anu. When we've heard so much now about different types of vulnerabilities, are there any of these that you would particularly point to as important to address jointly?
Well, at the moment, I'm really worried about the plants and seeds and seedlings. And when we think about the plant breeding, so it really takes time. It's expensive, and I think there, especially, we need to share forces. It takes a long time. We need to share all the knowledge what we have, and I think that's very important. But of course, there are many other things also. But that's something what I would like to highlight at the moment.
Yeah, you do breeding in Finland?
Yes.
Yeah, on seed. Yeah. And any of you who want to comment on?
We have the problem with seeds is between the three countries. It's also that there is hardly any seed development and seed breeding for any varieties above latitude 60. So even if we say that we could do things here, we need to get set off those genetic programs. And for sure, those should be combined Nordic efforts. Just stupid to have it in each country separately.
I think one of the reasons that we are not kind of targeted by breeding companies is that the market is so small.
Yes.
So by collaborating, we increase the market too.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example of where market forces can't be held to design the future solutions.
Yeah.
Because if I was the company owners, I also wouldn't invest in a very small volume.
Yeah.
But if we want to be able to breed, to have better crops in the north in the future, that has to be addressed.
Yeah.
And it's the same with animal species then, and animal genetics, that we have hardly any breeding in the Nordics anymore, neither pigs or poultry. And it's a real vulnerability.
Thank you.
Yes,
I think you should just speak and it will come.
Yeah, maybe. I will highlight something what I said. I think the need of agricultural land and rangeland ready to use, because when the farmers leave, the land will be not the same quality as it was. So it's very important to know the quality and know what's the possibilities, the potential for this land.
Yeah.
So I think that is something we can see in common. What is this tree lands? What's the possibilities? What's the potential for different production? Then we need knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's you illustrated well the pressures that are on agricultural land, but in the north, I guess one critical situation is that a lot of the agricultural land is actually not farmed. And in a crisis, that could be a very important to bring that back into production.
Yeah.
So could you say also a little bit more about kind of what steps needs to be taken to reactivate that land, or how can countries collaborate, do you think?
It's a lot of things, and a lot of things is political, I think. But to have the same system of how we map qualities, how we can discuss what are produced in different parts, and also we need farmers. We need to have farmers in this district to produce food, and how to do that, and how to manage that for the coming years. That's very important. Otherwise, who will do the job?
Yeah. I want to. I think both Anu and Sigrid, you showed how highly dependent the agriculture today is on external inputs. particularly feed and fertilizers. And that's also, as you showed, that's why we're not robust. So also again, are there any ways that we could make our system more robust, less dependent on these external factors, and again this opportunity to collaborate across? What are your thoughts, Sigrid?
Well, we know there are, and it's partly about going back to the crop rotations that we had before the industrial revolution, where we've started putting fossil fuels into farming. If we can go back to those crop rotation systems, they are less dependent on inputs, and combine that with modern technology and all the knowledge we have today, to do that in a more integrated landscape setting. And I think one way to get policy interested in this is to point out the time frame for any analysis of the food system. Because if we want to analyze, like today, how should we crop in the Nordic countries to get the best harvest this year? Then we could go with oil seeds and beans everywhere. But in 10 years, then we can't crop anything. And if we take the animals out of the cropping system, we won't have fertile soils 30 years from now. So if we include that factor of that the farming system will affect soil fertility in the long run, if we can start including that, the preferred outcomes will change dramatically. And soil fertility is put as a constant in all of these systems analyses, that they are as they are now, and they will stay that way regardless of how we use the land, which isn't true, of course. So we need long-term data series, and we need different systems analysis approaches.
Yes, and like I already said in my presentation, so at the moment we have new tools in a way. If we think about the circular bioeconomy, we have developed different processing methods. We can use those in a way, how to circulate the nutrients in a smaller area and spread them where they are needed. And I think that's something. And once again, if we want to build a factory, maybe in one country it's too small, but when we are doing it together, so it could be already competitive. So I think that's something we really need to think.
Yeah. And local feed resources, how have you touched upon that in your research, Sigrid?
That situation is very different between animal species, of course.
Yeah.
I would say that Nordic ruminants don't rely on imported feeds. Even if we use imported feeds when they're cheaper, we could do really well without any problems with animal welfare and any large production setbacks. We just started a project now trying to identify co-streams from the food system that could be used and put into poultry diets. But it has to be like an intermediate step to cultivate fungi on these co-streams and then have a uniform fungi to put into the poultry diets. Poultry nutrition don't do byproducts at all. So that's a lot. We just need to set examples and show that, yes, you can do things and why that is a benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, very...
Yeah. So one thing I could add, so what we have tested is the grass when we have the grass juice. Yeah. And that's very suitable for poultry and pigs also. So that's how to use grass also for monogastric.
Yeah.
Good. Then I think we should give these ladies a big applause. Thank you. And I'll leave the floor for you, Ivar.
Thank you for a very interesting session, and it's interesting when we discuss this on a systemic level, because if you have asked our military leaders in all the countries, 3 countries, they have a monthly meeting where they are planning how they should do the logistics if we have a crisis with the East, and I think that we are working on an area that is really important. So maybe also we should maybe have a monthly meeting to see how we could do more cooperation. But let's turn over to some examples where we have people that are doing this on a daily basis. And circular resilience, circular society, circular, as I mentioned, is important. So we will now get some hand-on examples of Arctic food production and how resources circulate and contribute to more smarter, greener solutions for sustainable food production. And we will start with Gjermund Bar, circular aquaculture in a circular economy. Gjermund Bar is a senior advisor at NIBIO, connects aquaculture and agriculture by developing scalable circular solutions. And his work spans from nutrient recovery, converting fish sludge into energy and feed, and creating algae-based biofilters and green biorefining strengthened through industry partnership. Gjermund.
Just wait. Oh, sorry. Just waiting for my presentation. Here we go. As Ivar introduced so kindly, circular aquaculture in a circular economy. And to make aquaculture circular, we need basically to close it up. So this is an example of a closed system which we are working together with our partner Multigen, which is a part of the industry then. And this location, it's on a very beautiful spot in the Ofoten district, close to the Lofoten Islands. And talking about that, I will show you one example of the open net pen problem, as we call it. So due to the official numbers which we collected from 2024, because it takes a year before they are ready, and these numbers you will find in this Norwegian Statistic Bureau and the Ministry of Fisheries and the Fishery Directory, where you can go and double check them. But in 2024, we had a total production of 1.5 million tons of fish. And during this production cycle, 93,000 fish managed to escape these systems. And the mortality was around 70 million fish. And that was a really good numbers compared to the year before, imagine. But this equals between 16 and 70% of the fish dies during a production cycle, which is a lot. And we had the waste of 1.5 million tons of sludge, just going straight into the open ecosystems. And it's not a problem for the nature because it's able to eat it, but it's a lost resource. And in this open net pen system, we also have releases of toxic anti-fouling agents, like copper and zinc, which are getting less and less, and new stuff, for example, the tralopyril, which also settle down and sediments in the fjord systems. So if we take these volumes of interest or the feed, the fish, and put them into a closed system and see how would it operate then. Then, when we close it up with the same number of fish and with the same number of feed and resources, we could produce up to 2.21 million tons of fish, which is an increase of 40–70%, which is huge. We would have zero escapes, because you cannot escape from these closed systems at all. And the mortality would be reduced from 70 million down to 13 million, which is a decline of, does it say 81%? I should have brought my glasses, sorry, I don't recall. And of course, it's a closed system, so we have no sludge wasted at all. Instead, this sludge will be a resource to produce the marine omega-3 oils and proteins, which we are working with, and we could gain 37,000 tons of these oils from this sludge, which would equal around 185 million US dollars in the economy input. And on top, 148,000 tons of marine protein. So it's a quite different system. So now I'm curious if this film would work.
The ocean has always been a source of life. But now the aquaculture industry stands at a crossroads. We need solutions that are sustainable and profitable. Multigen, smolt and farmed fish at the same location. A secure facility where fish thrive, safely protected from external threats. Multigen cares for the fish through every stage of life, prioritizing fish welfare and the environment. The facility is space efficient with minimal impact on nature. A future where technology meets sustainability. Multigen gives us the opportunity to produce more with less. We choose to take responsibility for the ocean, for the fish, for the future.
Yeah, that was my contribution. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gjermund. We continue with another example. Arctic vegetables production and resource circulations in practice. And Jannik Tråvik-Mennen will do a presentation of his microfarm, Klauv and Rake, which was the logo in the beginning. He, together with his partner, Amalie, is specializing in non-tile vegetables. They also raise cows, goats, and chickens, and focusing on resource circulations for sustainable production. Thank you. We are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. So we're starting out rocky because my pictures look kind of messed up, but hey, we can enjoy anyway, right? So I'm really happy to hear academics talk about taking a step back in the farming system being a way into the future, that we step away from input-intensive systems, because that's what we are working on. So our main way of doing that is using what we already have, so keeping things in the system. We board horses at the farm, so we compost their manure and bedding. That has a lot of coniferous sawdust and stuff in it, but we also add in junk feed, ruminant and chicken manures, and other like waste biomass that we have. So we end up with a pretty good bulk compost that is not very nutritious, but it's great for adding organic matter and building our permanent raised beds. Like this. So we also do managed grazing on pasture. This is a simple way to add manure and biology to our hay fields. It's relatively straightforward with the help of portable electric fencing and some well-behaved animals, of course. It requires management and it requires time, but it's a great way of stimulating grass early and late in the season. And it suppresses weeds because the weeds can't really take the grazing pressure the same way grass plants can. So it's looking very promising from a couple of seasons. Also, we're looking to harvest biomass from the parts of the farm we don't cultivate. Chipping brush, what they call ramil wood, looks very promising. Lacto-fermentation of foraged plants and herbs for a water-soluble fertilizer looks very promising. We gather a little bit of seaweed for our propagation compost and for our inoculating composts. That also looks promising, but I'm a little hesitant to scale that up because I'm worried about heavy metals, PFAS, stuff like that in seaweed. So I'd like to see some more research. Of course, green manures are like the gold standard of building soil fertility. That is what ley farming, as they're describing, is with grass. We'd like to look for other things too that work in our land base and in our season. Stuff that winter kills would be great. But that's something we're looking into, and it's a great way of building soil fertility with very little inputs. And like the biggie, of course, is like importing biomass, classic circular bioeconomy, I guess. For us, that is interesting, but it has a lot of caveats. The biomass needs to be clean. So if you're importing trash, persistent herbicides, heavy metals, stuff like that, you're undermining your farm. But a couple of ones I like are fermented or hydrolyzed proteins as soil amendments. Is looking really, really promising. It's a like gold standard source of nitrogen that doesn't leach and doesn't wash out, so that looks very promising. Stabilized fish waste, like Gjermund is talking about, they're already selling that in North America as a commercial product. That looks very promising. Carbonaceous materials for bedding or for heating or for just adding bulk to soil in the form of mulch or biochar could be an option. And of course, coffee grounds, spent grains, any stuff that you can feed to worms in a flow-through vermicompost system could be something to explore, because vermicompost is a magical soil ingredient. Last but not least, we can eliminate waste from our growing system. So we're pretty far into being low input, but we have some inputs and some outputs that we're not too thrilled about. So here you see a big one. This is silage tarp that we use for occultation, both of established weeds and to kill pasture. We use it for many years, but it sheds microplastics over time, and we'd like to eliminate that. We also use quite a lot of frost cloth, doing mixed farming where we're at, right? We need to protect our plants. Also sheds a whole bunch of microplastics. So I'd love to see alternatives made with either biological fibers or maybe something that is more biodegradable that doesn't make microplastics. I'd love to see ground covers in wool. They're already doing other organic fibers like cocoa or burlap, so why not wool, which is a huge waste resource in Norwegian farming. So there's only potential, and I think that biologically driven, small-scale mixed farming like we're doing in Skulsfjord is not to be underestimated for how we can pick up waste streams from other industries, but also how we can eliminate waste streams and make robust local farming systems. So, thank you guys.
Thank you, Yannick. Very interesting. And the last one is Ida Sofie Stryken, Cultivating Change in Urban Community Gardens. Ida Sofie Stryken, PhD fellow at UiT, Arctic University of Norway, based in Tromsø, and member of the Changing Arctic Research School, explores community gardening in the northern Norway and Svalbard as part of her doctoral work, Community Gardens within Norwegian Arctic Foodscapes. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a PhD in community planning at UiT. First, I will, so I'm studying urban agriculture and community gardening in northern Norway. First, I will talk about community gardens in northern Norway, and then I will discuss their potential to contribute to circular resilience. And I will also give a brief overview of some of my research questions. This image here is from one of Tromsø's community gardens. It's Dyrk Tromsø, or Cultivate Tromsø. And the sign here says, flowers for the bee and the city. So is this how I change it? The green one, yes, of course. The next picture is from another of Tromsø's community gardens. It's from an open event at Holt Eco Park. And I will stay with this picture, and I will start here. What is a community garden? My simplest definition is a spot where people engage in cultivation of plants together with others. And these others can be insects, birds, fungi, or microorganisms, as well as people. In my PhD project, a community garden is such a spot with 2 more criteria added. The participation is voluntary, and the community's main focus is edible plants. Northern Norway is the 3 counties Nordland, Troms, and Finnmark. During my ongoing mapping of community gardens, I have identified gardens in all 3 counties. And as you can see, the gardens are well spread throughout the region. And in the largest cities, Tromsø and Bodø, there are several gardens. Some of the community gardens are grassroots initiatives, while others are initiated by NGOs or municipalities. Most of the gardens use social media for communication, information, and recruitment. And here is a very brief journey through the different gardens. Very brief. Yes. This picture here is taken in a community garden in Mo i Rana, where 2 kindergartens have their own planting boxes. And my guess is that they grew sunflowers here last season. So what is going on in these communities? Some questions I will investigate are, why do people wish to participate in community gardening? What interactions occur within the gardens, but also between the gardens and their near and distant surroundings? Why does the public sector, like municipalities, encourage community garden initiatives? And last but not least today, how can community gardens contribute to circular resilience? What resources are circulated in the community gardens? It's easy to imagine the circular flow of material and organic resources in a garden. However, in a community garden, the intangible or non-material resources are just as important. For instance, how do we harvest our own seeds? And other essential skills that are cultivated in the gardens are things like collaboration, negotiation, conflict resolution, and decision-making. And the last one, I would like to end with this image of a seed library that I found in Tromsø, in Narvik Public Library. And in these drawers you can find a variety of seeds that are suitable for local climate and conditions. The seeds are free, just like the books. You pick what you want, and then you can give back your fresh seeds in the autumn. So this little chest of drawers is a good example of circulation of resources, both intangible and material. So I still have more than 3 years to go in my PhD project, so please reach out if you have inputs or questions, today or later. Thank you.
Now, there is sound. Nice. Thank you, Ida Sofia. And I have some questions for you. And I think that to start on the local level, because we have been on the big picture, the challenge we have as society and region, but you are describing things that are down to earth, that are local. So how is the knowledge you are describing a key for food production, food safety in the northern region? Ida.
Yeah, thank you. First, I must say that I'm not thinking that this knowledge that are circulated in the gardens are directly transferable to bigger kinds of food production or to farms, but I believe that they can be a contribution especially if the larger systems are damaged or even damaged or collapse in some way. Then there will be some people that have some knowledge about how to grow food.
But you are early in your research. When you're out meeting people, what do you experience when you meet people? Is there an increase in interest for growing food? Can you say something about the people you meet that are doing this actually?
Yes, I can say something about it. As you say, I'm very early in my projects. But I think there is a general increasing interest in growing your own food by many reasons. I mean, these communities are also a social arena, so they can function as a place to meet people that you would not meet elsewhere. But what I'm also noticing is that many municipalities they take initiative to build such communities, and that is something I find very interesting. And I think that is a bit new, that the public sector can see that there is different reasons to take such initiatives, not only to create a place for people to meet, but to make people or to share knowledge about how people can really manage to grow for themselves in a crisis.
Interesting, and I think when I come to my own kids, it's important to learn kids how thing grows, because that is basic to understand. When you become a researcher, for example, you have to understand the basic. But Jannik, as a farmer, you had some challenges concerning the way you are doing your farm. But if you look to the market and the logistics, what do you need to be able to produce more? Big question.
Huge question. I think mainly what we are looking at right now to increase local food in northern Norway, we have to follow the game plan that we see in the west of Norway and further south. And the things that have happened there that have made it easier for local producers, specialty producers, is increased market access. And very often that is as easy as you have like a head of category in one of the big chains, sort of all of a sudden has an awakening about local food, like happened with Meny. That was huge for a lot of, especially cheese makers, but also like especially charcuterie people in the south of Norway, that Meny all of a sudden started hunting them. So that people that run stores are allowed to and are actively stimulated to chase down the good local food. I think that can be a huge one, because we're here, but it's hard for us, especially vegetable producers and other like primary producers, to get into stores where people are.
So get the market access, you need stores that are available when you have your products and,
Exactly.
and that they are proud of them,
Yes.
showing them. Yeah.
And they don't have those bothersome exclusive deals with Gartnerhallen or whatever that the big chains have, right? Just let us in there. Let people experience what we have, the qualities we have.
Yeah. It is interesting because during the pandemic, the grocery chains in Norway learned that the local produced food was the category that was increasing most, because then we were staying at home and we want to have something good to cook because we felt alone. So that was the category that really grew, and I think that has changed the attitude as some of them, Meny for example. Hopefully they will do more. If we come over to you, Yaman, what you presented was I would say a systemic challenge, and then you had some solutions on it. But turning waste into gold sounds like a dream. And if I just look at the numbers, this should be gold for me. So how can we turn waste that today is lost into valuable products? What are the barriers? What are the problems? Or the main problem for doing this? Also a big question.
Yes. Well, the main problem is actually to get action and interest for this. And it's a big struggle just to find the fundings to have this started. We have the technology, we have the science behind this. We know how to break down these streams into substances which we can feed our microbes with to produce this stuff. So it's a big demand for having some active interest from the aquaculture industry in itself. So. And as an old friend of mine used to say, well, the Stone Age didn't stop because they ran out of stones. We are moving in new directions. We are challenging the industry.
Yeah, but a question: if you go into closed production facilities, wouldn't that also increase the ability to produce more on the same spaces that we do today?
Yes, we would absolutely use less space compared to what we use today, both in open farms and also in these closed systems onshore. So this would shrink the size of the production facilities dramatically. And the good thing about this, when we finished using them or they are outdated, throw them away, break them down, and recycle them as new systems.
Interesting, but if you go to the sludge, you mentioned that there was a lot of possible products that could have a high value, but on the other side, the nutrition as well. There is an enormous amount of nutrition that is lost today, and if we could catch all this, we could have nutrition for for the whole Nordic region, or?
I'm not quite sure where you want with this nutrition, but our dream is to recycle it back into fish feed, for example, if we want to continue to grow this industry. And our calculations, if we use these side streams smart, the sludge for this oil and proteins, the leftovers from the fish, let's process it completely down to fillets and final products, we could recycle these up to, yeah, we could cover our own need for resources for feed with up to 75%. So we need to import only 25%, and that's quite dramatic. It's a big numbers.
It's really big numbers, and I saw the situation today that if I'm taking it up, 1 of 5 fish dies, and if you compare to the farmers on land, we will never accept a death rate of that. So there's a lot to do. But let me turn this over to, as a local farmer, you mentioned some interesting things during your presentation, that you need equipment that are without fossil ingredients. So could you say something more about that? Why is that important?
Well, mainly because we're getting more and more aware of how persistent and how pernicious microplastics are, and that's my main worry. We're very light on petroleum, like as diesel or gasoline. That's fine. We don't use much of it, right? But I'm really worried about all the microplastics we're shedding into our soil. We know it's going into the plants. We know that when it goes into the plants, it can go into our cells, and I don't wanna contribute to that. So we need stuff that's biodegradable. We have bioplastics, but bioplastics, as they break down, make a whole lot more microplastics that gum up stuff. So we need something that's better. That's not for us to solve, but that's for us to help academia and business solve, I think. Beyond the ball, help them.
Good point. Ida Sofia, when it comes to the people that are responsible for planning how we use the land, and especially, of course, in areas where there is a lot of people, do you have any thoughts about if the knowledge among the planners are good enough when it comes to understanding this combination of, I would say, local circular production in the areas where people live?
But maybe not. But I think it's coming. The awareness of how to use small areas, for instance, in a city, in different ways, and especially if someone takes an initiative, is increasing, I think. But how it's possible to implement it into the planning, I'm not sure yet. But I think there are a lot of possibilities. I will look into it.
Yeah, and you are early in your research, so when you have the results, we should, of course, get them out to the planners as well. Yeah, I know that is your plan. Yeah, I mean, if we go to the title of this seminar is, of course, Nordic resilience when it comes to food safety, food production. And, of course, Norway is a special situation because we have so much fish produced along our long coast. How do you see doing changes in the way we produce fish as part of the resilience? Because I know I have learned that most of the ingredients that we feed the fish today is coming from abroad. So how do you see this as part of the resilience when it comes to food production?
This is make it or break it for the Norwegian aquaculture industry, because if we lose our imports, which equals 95% of our inputs, then we have no aquaculture in Norway. That's as easy as that.
It's a good point, and I think we end this one because we have been on the local level, but also on the systemic level. And thank you to all of you for contributing with your interesting presentations and discussion.
I also have to say thank you again to all the ones who have contributed with presentations, but also to all of you who have come here today to listen and take part in this important conversation about food production and food security. And we will close with a visual journey through the northern Norwegian agricultural landscape, guided by landscape geographer Oskar Puschmann from Nibio. And perhaps this will give you new perspectives on the land that sustain us. So thank you again and enjoy this journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the audience, for the opportunity to give this presentation. Is it there? Yep. I start with this picture. This is I'm going to take you through a short travel through time and space. And I start with this picture because I experienced that if you put an image on a table with friends and they have common experience about it, then it will start something. It will start to remember more than just the picture are showing. I think that everywhere, this one, everywhere you go in the Nordic countries, there have been people there before you. And you will see that in the structure and in all the things that are in the landscape. But sometimes you have been lucky because there have been someone there with a photographer and taken a picture like this. Fishing communities in the western part of Norway at the exact same place. And this gives us the opportunity to show how it was at this exact place and how it has developed. And it also brings us some forgotten historical events that we will never experience again, but it will show what happened in this place. And also, landscape photography is just a snapshot in an eternal cycle of change. The landscape is always evolving, it's always changing. And what you take a picture of, it will necessarily not be there for the next decades. And we see it also with climate change. In northern Norway, the Svartisen, iconic glaciers, gradually disappearing due to warming climate, here in over 100 years perspective. So now you maybe know what I'm talking about when I say the word rephotographing. It is for us to find the exact same place with our triple as an earlier photographer did. And if we don't manage to do that, then we take another picture, another place. And we're proud to say that this has been said to be the longest ongoing rephoto project in the world. We started in 2002. We have approximately 10,000 pictures all over Norway from a time span from 1850 and then maybe just a couple of minutes ago for some years ago. So this is ongoing, and we are reaching a broader audience than we normally do within the agriculture. What I think is fascinating with the landscape or the agriculture is that through centuries and through generations, there has been a small spot on this planet that some family have had, and they had then tried or managed to make an occupation and to produce food for themselves through centuries. I think also that this is very important to say that if we keep the soil good and healthy, then we can produce food on the same area for another 1,000 years. When it comes to northern Norway, it's historically a multicultural landscape, populated area with different kinds of, like you see on this storehouse, where there are both connection to the Sami reindeer management with the fishery and to agriculture. And if we see the different kind of people living here, of course the Sami culture is very notable in the landscape, and it's also seeing a gradual change. We have also the Kven people, village populated by Finnish immigrants for over 100 years ago, which also give a signature to the landscape. And historically also the last war, if you go to the northern countries, Finnmark and northern parts of Tromsø, we have the war with the scorched earth tactics, where all the buildings in some areas were burned down. And we then also have the history with the reconstruction of the areas destroyed by war and how they rebuild it, like you can see here. And also when we go from cities to farms, then we see that the first farmers that came back after the war had the great inventiveness among the first returning farmers, like here, using a boat
for a cattle house. I found some old illustration from a project we had for 20 years ago, but I think it's very interesting because if you see these areas here, the biggest one, there are farmers with approximately 5 hectares. And that was in 1969, and if you see it how it is today, or in 1999, they disappeared. And that was also something that the government wanted to do. The combined fisher farmer's life was to be officially discounted. If you had too much income from, for instance, agriculture, then you didn't get fishing quotas. And so they forced the fishing farmer to choose between being a fisherman or being a farmer, or what mostly happened, find their occupation in another work. And then we also see that in the 1960s there was some kind of change because the landowners in some villages began to go their separate ways. Some tried to continue being farmers, others found their works in other occupations, or they moved away to southern parts of Norway or to bigger city in northern Norway. And we also see historically, yes, this is also important, that in 1960 we have lost since 1960 about 160,000 farmers in Norway, and today we have in whole Norway 37,000 left. And we also see the infrastructure, how that it changed from being sea-based to land-based transportation. So if you live in Lofoten or somewhere else on an island, there are also then mainly the transportation is land-based. We have another project I think also is very interesting to see how it developed in the latest years, measuring how far is it to the nearest actively farming neighbor. And if you take this one, then we can see that the number of active neighbor farms within 3 or 6 kilometers measured along the road. So the green dots, it's where there are a lot of farms, and the red one is where they are single. There's only one farmer left, and he is then probably running all the agriculture area in this village. And if you then see the changes from 1999 to 2006, then you will see that they are getting more and more, less and less farmer in the red dots. And if they disappear totally, there are so many kilometers to the next active farmer, so that it's likely that a new farmer will land this area is not very likely. We also see that the cities in northern Norway, like in all Norway, are growing, and they're taking the place from agriculture areas. And that is happening all over the world, but also then in northern Norway, which the pictures above shows. And this also has an impact of tourism. If you're going through northern Norway, then you will see some parts where there were farmers, and where you can also, like this, see that the houses are falling down or were being taken away. That's also a part of the tourism that you see. And we also have this problem that you're getting, that we call blinded gradually, that you don't notice it when you live in these areas, but slowly the changes are coming, and when you see them through 3 decades, then you will notice it in the landscape. You maybe remember the house, and you can remember when it was taken away, but you don't remember how the spruce or how the forest slowly came into the landscape. And woodland regrowth comes slowly, it gradually grows from year to year. And we also see that the regrowth of edges reduces the long sightlines in cultural landscape, meaning that it feels that it is more pressured, that it's smaller areas. I will say that the smallholder farmers is a red list species. Does everybody here know what a red list is? And I say that because they are, when they're producing with livestock, grazing and so on, they are creating biodiversity or areas to live for insects, birds and plants. And I think we should be much more aware of that. So decline in the number of grazing livestock is a huge challenge for biodiversity conservation too. This is a place where a farmer got some money to have cattle there, and then after a couple of years he quit, and then one species came back, mjödert. So And this is another example. This is only 10 years after, or 10 years between the pictures. And you see how the forest comes back very quickly. This was a place you actually for 20, 25 years ago could play golf in. This was 600 goats grazing there, and now it's abandoned with goats. It's still sheep and cattle in the same area, but they don't go at the same place as the goats, and they don't eat necessarily the same. So what I've shown you is that the regrowth that happens everywhere. If you should fight it, then you have to have some kind of prioritized landscapes acupuncture. You have to decide which area should you try to do something, and which should you just let the nature take over. And we see that many places that they're doing an effort, like here, removal of spruce plantations to restore a former view. And we also see it very much on Vega. Vega is a UNESCO World Heritage area, which they have put in a lot of money to restore it and bring it back to how it was. And that is actually only because of one thing, this bird. The common eider and the traditional production of eiderdown. That is what Vega UNESCO Heritage Area is all about. We also see that the struggling with farms, that there are getting more and less farms. And the small farms that we call tie-style barns, they must now, to the year 2034, go over to what we call loose housing barns. Yeah, and the farmer I spoke to here, he said that in his area, it's likely that 7-8 of today's 11 dairy farms will close down when loose housing barns become mandatory in 2034. And that is also what we are looking at. Grass production, harvesting a renewable resource, as we heard earlier today. That is, I think, what is the fortune of Northern Norway. We can always produce that. But I also think that many rural communities must learn to live their lives without farmers. And that we also see, that there is no farmer left in the village, but they continue to manage it as a soil protection, maybe. But what we see here, that they just cut the grass and then they take it away and dump it, throw it away. But I think that is also very interesting in a longer perspective. In 2018, Southern Norway had an extreme drought. And this is taken the same date 1 year between. And you see on the upper picture that he's given up. Everything what he was supposed to produce is gone by the drought. But I think that Northern Norway has the possibility to be a resource area for Southern Norway. Because Norway is, with its length, will never have drought all over. And that is something I think we should focus more on. Surveys shows that Norwegians want agricultural landscapes to be preserved. Overwhelmingly, every time they make such a poll, they say that this is something that we care about. This is something about our cultural heritage, and this is something also that we need to have to protect ourselves. And here you can see in the first picture, the royal family is visiting a Sami village, Skoltebyen. And then on the other picture, you see the resource group. I think many times it's difficult to persuade a neighbor or someone that it's necessary to take care of all this. So I will end the presentation with this. Save the earth, because it's the only planet with chocolate. So thank you for the presentation.
Again, just thank you very much, all of you. I think we've spanned across very many topics, and it's been, at least for me, very both insightful and inspiring. Yeah, and wise words to end with.
Thank you.